So, today I wanted to talk about this concept that I discovered recently that very much, honestly, it shocked me. And I tend to talk about more strange, kind of off topic spiritual things, and this is definitely something I've heard like little bits and pieces of, but never really going super in depth into it. And this is the idea that your life is basically being run by a myth, or you're connected to a certain mythological character. So this could include like characters from the Bible, like Greek gods and goddesses, these kind of really old mythological characters that like you might study in some kind of like a English class or something like that. And I found with myself when I started to look at the specifically the art pieces that I'm naturally drawn to, I find that there's definitely proof that I'm connected to a specific myth and like an actual mythological character where I'm kind of playing out her story without knowing it. But now that I know it, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, what's, why? Basically. So in my experience, there is sort of like a step-by-step process to finding which myth is kind of running your life. And I don't think that this is necessarily a bad thing. I think it's something that we can become aware of and just, just realize that the things, wow, 33, the things you like might be because you're kind of getting influenced by the energy of this myth. It's kind of cool, actually, when you really think about it. So I'm just going to get right into my recommended process, and then also some extra things that I did that I can do because I have like psychic abilities. If you have psychic abilities, you can do it as well. But okay, so to find out which mythological character you're connected to and is potentially running your life, you can first gather all of your favorite artworks from pretty much from when you were little. I actually found for me the most relevant artworks were from when I was maybe like from 6 years old to end of high school. I don't know why that is. It's just maybe that's when like subconsciously I was taking in the messages from these pieces of art. So when you think about, or when you're gathering these art pieces, it could be a song, it could be a movie, it could be a piece of art, a book, anything like that. And you're going to think about all of the art pieces that kind of cause like a big emotional reaction in you. So when I look back, when I was, I think, 6 to 7 years old, my whole family, like, we all watched Titanic because like Titanic was like the movie of like the 90s. Like everyone just watched it back then. And I just remember us watching it in the family room and me just like running out of the room, like crying, like in tears. And I know it's like a sad movie, but no one else in the family really cared that much. Like they were just watching it, but it like really had a big effect on me. And even later in life, like when I went to England, maybe no, maybe I went like a year ago. I ended up going to like the Titanic Museum, and it's just something that kind of kept coming back into my life, like this idea of the Titanic. I even, in school, we sang a song about the Titanic, and I like freaked out over it. Like I had to leave the room, and I was like 6. So anyways, so this movie caused like a big emotional reaction in me. So that could be something to think about, where you had the reaction but no one else. They were like, what's wrong? Okay, and then the next thing is to think about any pieces of art or books or whatever it may be. Think about art that kind of follows you as a synchronicity. So I know a lot of spiritual people, they'll like see a book on the side of the road, or they'll like keep getting followed by a song or a painting or something like that. That definitely happened to me with a painting called The Kiss. And so this painting, like I subletted an apartment maybe like a year ago or so, and it was like hanging on the wall. I remember like one of the people who psychically activated me in Mexico, like he just had it on his phone screen. Like things like that where I'm like, why? Like I don't really care for this painting that much, but it just kind of, it's just following you. So that could be an example. Bonus points if it causes emotions and it follows you. Generally, if it's a piece of art, song, movie, whatever it may be, that you were obsessed with. So, and the key is that it's not like popular at the time. So you were obsessed with it, but meanwhile your friends were like, why do you care so much about this? Like they don't, like you seem to be the only person who is liking this art at the time. So for me, an example of that would be in high school. A lot of these things came up in high school, by the way, which I find funny. But so in high school, there was this song from West Side Story, which still to this day is my favorite musical score. Like I just think if someone were to ask me what my favorite score is, I always say West Side Story, because it like moves me in a very deep way. Even like the actual music, not just the words. So there's a song called Somewhere from West Side Story, which was written by Stephen Sondheim and Leonard Bernstein. And this song, like I would listen to it every day before I would go to sleep, and I would just cry listening to it. I was just, even to this day, if I hear it, I just like, something in my heart, like, I don't know, it triggers something. And there's no real reason for it. Like my parents never took me to musicals as a kid. If anything, I fell in love with musicals more when I was like 20 or so. So yeah, that's a song that I fell in love with. I became obsessed with it. I listened to it every day for like a year. So that's something to think about. I also, in college, obsessively watched this dance routine by Bob Fosse. And Bob Fosse is like one of my, I just always felt a soul connection with him. But I became obsessed with this dance, and like it wasn't popular. It's just something I found, and I just watched it. I would watch it almost every day. I don't know what this means, what this says about me, but um, yeah. So that's that's something to think about. The obsession. And also a factor to keep in mind is the art piece could keep coming back into your life. Like it's not necessarily following you as a sink, like it's a freaky thing, but it's like you happen to just stumble upon it all the time. Like for me, when I first moved to Toronto, in my early 20s, one of the first musicals I choreographed was Nightmare Before Christmas. But it's not because I was obsessed with it, it's just I got that job. And then later on in my spiritual journey, I would get syncs related to Nightmare Before Christmas. So yeah, it could just be like a significant presence in your life. All right. Okay, so you gather all of these art pieces that you specifically are obsessed with, not because they're popular at the time, and you basically start looking for similarities between them. And I'm going to go through my whole process so you can kind of see like how you could make the connections. And it also has to do with going back in time to before they created the art. So you're going to look at things like in these specific songs or in these specific paintings or in the book, one kind of helpful thing to do is to look at the most famous moment in it. So look at the thing that's just like the iconic moment or the like the main character, for example, like something that, like for example, in West Side Story, somewhere actually happens to be one of those songs that has gone down in history. Like if I were to think about Stephen Sondheim, I would say that the majority, like the general public, knows him for that song in that musical specifically. So these artworks will be, or sorry, these like iconic moments in the art will tell you something that might be relevant to the myth that you'll connect it to later on. All right, so you've made your connections. You can see, oh, maybe the characters are wearing similar clothing, similar colors. Maybe they have similar hair. Maybe there's a similar theme. Maybe there's like an animal that shows up in all of them. Maybe there's like a similar element like fire or water or something like that. So you can look for things like that. Look for also like shapes and patterns and stuff. Like get like, try to go like as deep as you can with that. And then next, you're going to basically, with each of these art pieces, you're going to go back in time to find out basically like why the artist painted it or like wrote the book, like what inspired them, which artists were they inspired by, or which art piece inspired this art piece. So for example, okay, I'm using musicals as an example because I love them, but Wicked was inspired by The Wizard of Oz. What was The Wizard of Oz inspired by? And then keep kind of going back. So that, and then you're gonna start looking at old depictions of mythological characters and just trying to make a connection. So I guess it would be a lot easier if you already have a lot of knowledge on the different characters from the Bible or like the ascended masters and things like that. If you don't, this part might be a little bit hard because for me, I already knew about the character that I'm kind of playing the story of, just because I received a lot of syncs about her, like throughout, I don't know, I guess throughout like the past 3 years especially, but it turns out I was getting a lot of information about her like since I was 6 years old or something. So that's something to, you might have to do. So with my process, I kind of did things a bit differently because I have also the perspective of which artists I already have a soul connection with. And I know this sounds a little crazy, but there are some people where when I see them, I just know we were together in a past life or we're part of the same, I don't know if you, like, if you believe in like the whole star seed thing, like we're part of the same race from the future, or we're part of just the same energy stream, if that makes sense. So I kind of took a backwards approach because I can see which artists I have a deep connection to, or I'm part of the same soul group. So I took those art pieces that I was so obsessed with and then looked at all the artists and saw like, wow, like I have a connection to all of them. Like they're all in the same soul group. So this is something that you can do after you've found all of your art pieces or before. I kind of did it before just because I already had like a list of my like celebrity soulmates. So I just looked at the art pieces of theirs that I was obsessed with, like kind of by chance. And then they all ended up connecting in like a crazy way. So, and I just want to say, in like to tell if you have a soul connection with an artist or anyone in general, a few emotions might come up when you see them. So you might just have this feeling of, oh, hi, like I know you, like there you are, I found you, kind of thing. You're just this feeling of recognition. You're like, yep, I know you. Like that's it. It could be as simple as that, or it could be, it's funny with one of the artists, Howard Ashman, I have this feeling of like needing to protect him. And I've never met him before. But like when I saw like his documentary and I like actually started like bawling my eyes out because I was just like, I know him. I don't care. Like I just do. Sorry, like I just do. And the thing that he's probably most famous for is writing the Little Mermaid songs, and that was my favorite Disney movie period growing up. And then I'll get into the Little Mermaid in just a second, but so those emotions might come up with these artists in your soul group. Okay, so my process, I'm gonna go through all of the artworks that I had as obsessions or synchronicities or things like that, and then how they all ended up connecting, and then I will tell you what myth I'm playing out in the end. This kind of stuff is just, this is when spirituality gets kind of cool and fun. I don't know, I like it. Okay. So, like I mentioned before, one of the art pieces that really followed me a lot was this painting called The Kiss, and this is by Gustav Klimt. Obviously, when I'm talking about this, I'm going to put the picture up so you guys can see. But with this picture, so like I said, it just always followed me. I never loved the painting, but I was just like, what the heck? Why is it like always there? Um, just showing up in also strange places, like on this person's phone screen, who also was very like very connected to me in like a psychic way, kind of. Um, so so when I like took this painting and I went back in time to look at how it was, um, like maybe who he was inspired by, or I'm kind of just like connecting it to something in the past. And I found another painting called The Kiss. And this painting has a man in red kissing a woman in blue. And this painting is known to be kind of like the precursor to Gustav's Kiss. And then when I go back further, I can connect it to a character from mythology, Mary Magdalene, in one of the most famous paintings of all time, The Last Supper, with her in blue beside Jesus who's in red. Okay, so we have that. That's an example of like taking it back as far as you can. The character I'm connected to is Mary Magdalene, by the way. So that painting was very prevalent in my life, mostly like later on in my life. And so the next piece that I was very like significant in my life was the dance from the Pajama Game with Bob Fosse. So this dance is considered Bob Fosse's like pièce de résistance. Like this is him in his prime, performing like probably like the best he's ever performed, and he's performing with Gwen Verdon, who they kind of had like a on and off kind of relationship, but they were a couple actually in real life. At like one point, they had a kid together actually. So with this dance clip, I was like, I went crazy with it. Like, this was my first year of college, and I was in like a theater program, and I watched it constantly. I watched it on my phone. I watched it on my computer. I was like, I don't know why. I wish I could dance like that. That was the emotion. I was like, oh my god, if I could perform that, I would feel like so good. Yeah, even just thinking about it, it's such a good dance. But so no one else in my theater program cared about this dance. I was the only person watching this. And okay, so to like connect this to another one of my artworks. So I mentioned you can like look at kind of patterns and shapes and colors. If I look at the colors and what the characters are wearing in The Kiss, it's like pretty similar to what Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon are wearing in that video. So with like they're both wearing yellow. The man's wearing like those black stripes. I'll show you also on the screen. He's wearing the black stripes, and the woman is wearing like circular pom-poms, colored pom-poms. So that makes me think, okay, are those two guys, like Fosse and Klimt, are they each other in a past life? Like, are they channeling each other? Because these are their iconic pieces. This is kind of what they're known for. And these are both very personal to them. So, yeah, there's another example. Okay, Nightmare Before Christmas. So you can see that um, the two main characters, one is a man with stripes, like black stripes, and one is a woman with red hair and blue skin. Um, and if you look at both of like the painting, the kiss, and the dance routine, the women all have red hair, and you'll see, like as I go through these pieces, like all of the women have red hair. And I didn't like these pieces because she had red hair, like she just does. I wasn't even born with red hair. I had like blonde hair actually when I was like young. Um, so yeah, with Nightmare Before Christmas, this was one of the first musicals I ever choreographed. I was just offered the job, and also like the first person that ever activated me psychically, he sent me a clip from Nightmare Before Christmas, the ending scene. That of course is like in all of these art pieces for me, it's always about like a man and a woman, like who are from who couldn't be together, who can now be together. And it's always those moments that have this like the color or the shape kind of similarities, like that imagery, like of like the blue woman with the red hair, like it's so weird. But so yeah, that's another one. I don't know if I'm connected to Tim Burton. I don't think I am actually, but I could. I haven't really looked into it actually, but okay. So then there's Howard Ashman. This is probably the artist that I feel most connected to. I don't know. I feel like I'm like his mom or something. It's funny. I feel like he's like me. Like he is me and I'm him. Weird thing. So he's most known for writing the lyrics of The Little Mermaid, also Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast. And my favorite movie growing up was The Little Mermaid. So no one else in my family, like I had two sisters, they were like, it's fine movie. But I was like, I love this movie. Ariel was always my favorite. I watched it like a million times. Think about the things you watched like a million times. That'll tell you something. And this is also one of the only Disney movies that has a reference literally to a Mary Magdalene painting. And in all of these Mary Magdalene paintings, she has red hair. So, I don't know. Yeah. So that's interesting. And like Ariel herself has red hair. I haven't seen the movie in a while, so I'm sure there's more. But there you go. There's another example. So the next song that I was obsessed with, like I said, is Somewhere from West Side Story. And when I look at the movie, the scene when this song is being sung, you can see the woman is lit with blue in the background and the man is lit with red in the background. And where does this go? Back to that Last Supper. I don't know. So, and again, this song was something I obsessed over. Still, if this song plays, I'm going to start crying. I'm going to start crying. And it's not like I had a traumatic experience when I was in high school related to West Side Story. This is not, yeah. And the final one is Titanic, and I'll just show you the main scene in Titanic. You guys know the scene where they're like flying or whatever on the front of the boat, and you can see that she's wearing blue with red hair. Yeah, so when I look at the kind of common thread and the common themes, honestly, of all of these art pieces, it's very much a Mary Magdalene type vibe. Like that's like the storyline. That's that like all of these songs kind of represent like the peak, or all of these art pieces, it's like the peak of like Mary Magdalene coming together with Jesus at the Last Supper. So it's very, very interesting, and I think it's a cool way to figure out like the patterns, like the kind of like story that you're destined for, or that your like soul is meant to play out, without using astrology and numerology, which I think they're so, oh my gosh, it's like so accurate, so accurate. But I find like I like art and like colors and images better, I guess. I don't know. I like I think I might like studying that stuff more. I don't know though. So yeah, what else did I want to say? Yeah, so I definitely feel like it's just friggin' like painfully obvious that I'm supposed to be playing out this Mary Magdalene story, and like her whole thing was that she like connected the energy of her womb with the energy of her heart and created this like coherence in her body where she just became, her heart like became pure, basically. So that's I guess what I'm supposed to do and what I have been doing without knowing it, and even maybe starting 2 years ago or so, maybe 2.5 years ago, when I started to really get the crazy synchronicities and the crazy like twin flame type psychic activations. I also would constantly get a lot of psychic messages about like Mary, like Mary Magdalene. I would even get like, I would hear like, oh, I had to get like an alabaster, so I bought an alabaster statue, and then I found out later, like I didn't know anything about her, but then I would find out later that she is connected to like the alabaster jar. So I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I feel like I'm in a movie. But yeah. So yeah, that's basically the process you can take. And seriously, like let me know what you find, because I wish I was more knowledgeable on myths. I only know like this one. I only know about Mary Magdalene basically, because I was like forced to learn about her during the spiritual awakening that I had and am currently going through. So yeah, let me know what you get, and if you feel like your life really is playing out in that story, because I feel like mine is. It's like I'm on this fast track to whatever Mary Magdalene did in her life. It's nuts. Okay, so that'll be it. Hope you guys liked this video, and I will also link to, well, I'll link to my blog in the description if you want to read more about this concept of like energy streams. I'll link to my energy streams post, and this concept of figuring out which mythological character you're connected to / is running your whole life. It's crazy. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys later.